He said what I've heard many times.
Yay! Cut. Action.
While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born.
Ooh.
Okay, we have to...
No, it wasn't. Action.
While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born.
Action. Ooh, that could be scooted over a little.
Can you see her?
Yeah.
Yes, Will.
Okay, action! There were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said, that's a wrap. Okay. Action.
Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy. Today in the town of David a Savior has been born unto you, and that has been a sign unto you. You will find the baby wrapped in cloth and lying in a manger.
Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying...
Glory to God in the highest.
No,
and
cut. Stop.
Okay, that's fine.
Dad.
Okay, action. Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying...
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to men on whom his favor rests.
When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another...
Cut! Cut!
Okay, action. Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying...
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to all men on whom his favor rests.
When the angels had left them and gone...
Cut.
Cut!
And after she says her line.
Action. Suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angels, praising God and saying...
Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace to all men on whom his favor rests.
Cut. Good.
Well, we have to be shocked first, and then you'll turn to me and just be like, well, the angels were over there.
Okay. Action. When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another...
Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord has told us about.
Hold on,
Wait.
baby Jesus is laughing.
Action.
And cut. Good. Great. Action. After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea during the time of King Herod, a wise man from the east came to Jerusalem and asked,
Where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? I saw his star in the east and have come to worship him.
When King Herod heard this, he was disturbed, and all Jerusalem with him. Then he called together all the people's chief priests and teachers of the law. He asked them where the Christ is to be born. In Bethlehem in Judea, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written. Then Herod called the wise man secretly and found out from him the exact time that the star had appeared. He sent him to Bethlehem and said,
Go and make careful search for the child. As soon as you find him, report to me, so that I too may go and worship him.
Call to action.
Okay. Action.
After he had heard the king, he went on his way, and the star he had seen in the east went ahead of him. When it stopped over the place where the child was, he was overjoyed. On coming to the house, he saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. Then he opened their treasures and presented him with gifts of gold,
Okay,
and
Rachel.
of incense, and of myrrh.
We're gonna do it again.
Don't gallop quite so fast.
Action.
After they had heard the king, he went on his way, and the star he had seen in the east went ahead of him. When it stopped over the place where the child was, he was overjoyed. On coming into the house, he saw the child with his mother Mary, and he bowed down and worshipped him. Then he opened his presents and presented them with gifts of gold and of incense and of myrrh. And, having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, he returned to his country by another.
You know what?
And then Rachel has a seat and us two back off.
Okay, you know what to do to start. You just push that, right?
Yeah, all three
Push
of
the red
us.
button.
Yeah.
All three of us should come in and all give a signal to start. I'll go like this to start, and then I'll start playing.
And we're back off.
And yeah, all three of us would come in.
Well, I think I'll just be in here by myself
No,
already.
our
Dad.
best.
Come on,
Lay it
Dad.
on the
You're
floor.
one of the-
Dad!
Okay, here you
You're
go.
a
Let's
laptop.
be hostess. Come on.
Okay.
Oh boy. More rehearsals.
Let's do it by side.
You gonna play first, Rachel, or what?
And go. Come on.
Well, the shorter person should be close to the camera.
How do you zoom in, Hank? Isn't there a zoom in place?
These two buttons right here.
No.
In and out, in and out, in and out.
We have to rehearsal coming in.
All right. Let's.
So what are you gonna do? What's the plan here?
Walk. Just follow my
What's the
lead.
plan?
Okay. We walk in.
Walk through it.
We walk in. We all take a bow. Then we
Take a
all
bow.
get to our places, and all give the signal, and I start.
And we'll do our techniques.
No.
Yeah.
No, we do that after she's done.
No,
She'll be playing while we do our techniques.
I play while you do that. It's
And then when
better.
we're done,
All right, so let's
we'll just-
practice.
so how many songs are you gonna play?
I'm just gonna play this part over and over.
No, play all three songs.
No, Dad.
She can do what she wants to.
This is what I'm going to do.
She is the musician.
This is what I'm going to do.
The gymnasts don't tell the musicians what to play.
We don't.
No.
Mary, you need to sit down so you're low. If you're up there, all you see is the top of our heads. Okay. Are you recording?
Okay, no, I haven't started yet. Tell me when you want me to
All right,
start.
let's
Red
get
lights
ready.
I haven't pressed the button.
Okay.
On your mark.
Oh, wait, it is recording.
Okay, that's okay.
And
You can't have too
we're
many.
practicing. We're practicing.
No, this is the real thing.
What? No, we've got to practice. No, cut.
We can destroy this
Mom.
one.
We're not practicing. We're doing it.
Dad, practice. So we know what to do for
She-
certain.
We
Coming in.
just, we just did that.
Dad.
Okay.
That was a walking through.
But make sure you get us. The music's in the background.
Yeah, beautiful music.
It's in the background. You see us and you hear the music.
Very nice music, Rachel. Jessica ate too much for dinner. And then we need to get the musician. Think about a musician.
Cut!
All three of you.
Cut!
Okay, go.
Hi, I'm Rachel Clark, and I'm going to play A Friend Like You.
Hello, my name is Jessica Clark.
And I'm Rachel Clark. And we'll be doing bridges.
Some kind of gymnastics exercise.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for performing.
He yelled at me and he said that you're in a country without laws and no one knows where you are. Do you know what that means? I said yes.
What did it mean to you?
It was very clear to me that he meant I could stay in my cell for 20 years or be buried somewhere, and nobody knows what happened to you.
What were they asking you?
Whether I had contacts with Islamic parties like Al-Qaeda or the Muslim Brotherhood or aid organizations. Lots of questions.
He says he told the Americans that he'd never been involved in militant Islam. Al-Masri says he wasn't tortured, but he says he was beaten and kept in solitary confinement. Then, after his 5 months of questioning, he was simply released.
Did anyone ever tell you that they'd made a mistake?
He told me that they had confused names and they had cleared it up, but I can't imagine that. You can clear up switching names in a few minutes.
He says he was flown out of Afghanistan and dumped on a road in Albania. When he finally made his way back home to Germany, he discovered his wife and kids were gone. They had moved in with her family in Lebanon. He called there to explain what happened.
That's a hell of a story. Did she believe you?
She did. I never lied to her, and my appearance showed that I had been in prison.
You have a 7-year-old son. How did you explain this to him?
I explained to him what happened to me, and he understood.
And when he asked you who did this to you, what did you say?
I said it was the Americans.
How do you know if you're picking up the right people?
You do the best you can. It's not a science. It's gathering as much information as you can, deciding on the quality of it, and then determining the risk the person poses. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake.
There was another destination that we noticed frequently in the plane's flight logs. It's Tashkent, the capital of Uzbekistan. It's a predominantly Muslim country with a reputation for torture. Craig Murray is the former British ambassador there. He told us that Uzbek citizens captured in Afghanistan were being flown back to Tashkent on the American plane.
I know of 2 instances for certain of prisoners who were brought back in a small jet, and I believe it was happening on a reasonably regular basis.
The jet operated by whom?
Premier Executive Airline.
He says in Uzbekistan, many prisoners are subject to torture techniques straight out of the Middle Ages.
techniques of drowning and suffocation. Rape was used quite commonly, and also insertion of limbs in boiling liquid.
Boiling people?
Yeah, it's quite common.
Murray complained to his superiors that British intelligence was using information gleaned by torture. He was recalled by London 4 months ago and quit the Foreign Office.
Any reason to believe that the CIA knows that people are being tortured in these jails?
The CIA definitely knows. I asked my deputy to go and speak to the CIA, and she came back and reported to me that she'd met the CIA head of station, who told her that, yes, this material probably was obtained under torture, but the CIA didn't see that as a problem.
The CIA disputes that. The agency told us that the meeting Murray describes never happened. The CIA also said it does not knowingly receive intelligence obtained by torture. President Bush, in a January interview with the New York Times, said this: "Torture is never acceptable." He added, "Nor do we hand over people to countries that do torture." Mike Scheuer says in his experience, the U.S. asks receiving countries to promise that suspects will be treated according to the laws of that country.
I'm not completely confident that any of the information received was exacted by torture.
In Egypt?
In Egypt. I think we have people in the Middle East in the various services we deal with who are extraordinarily experienced at debriefing people. I personally think that any information gotten through extreme methods of torture would probably be pretty useless, because it would be someone telling you what you wanted to hear. The information that we have received as a result of these programs has been very useful to the United States.
And if some of that useful information is gleaned by torture, that's okay?
It's okay with me. I'm responsible for protecting Americans.
Scheuer says in the Clinton and Bush administrations and in Congress, details of rendition flights were known to top officials. Now that the missions are coming to light, Scheuer says there is worry in the CIA that field agents will take the fall if any of the missions are later deemed illegal.
CIA people feeling vulnerable to that?
Oh, I think from the first day we ever did it, there was a certain macabre humor that said sooner or later this sword of Damocles is going to fall, because if something goes wrong, the policymaker, the politicians, and the congressional committees aren't going to belly up to the bar and say, we authorize this.
CBS News Money Watch is sponsored by Cialis. Ask your doctor if Cialis is right for you.
Good evening. Gasoline prices jumped 7 cents a gallon in the past 2 weeks to $1.97. Japan's Sony reportedly will name former CBS executive Howard Stringer as its first foreign-born global CEO. And Vin Diesel powered The Pacifier to #1 at the box office. I'm John Roberts, CBS News.
Don't miss another moment. Go to Cialis.com and find out what the Cialis Promise Program can mean for you. It's an offer you won't want to miss. Are you ready?
For news 24 hours a day, go to CBSNews.com.
My client bought a home way up in the Rockies, just in time for a sudden blizzard and a power outage. Their frantic call for heat woke me up, so I woke up some friends.
Grab the generator!
And after a little difficulty getting up the mountain, we got a very warm reception. Sometimes when you go above and beyond the call, it's way above!
To find your next home, visit ColdwellBanker.com, your gateway to local listings.
What if we replaced everyone's chalky antacid with new Rolaids Soft Chews?
Chewy, not chalky.
And they neutralize 56% more acid than Tums. Could we really replace everyone's antacid?
You just replaced mine.
Try new extra strength Rolaids Soft Chews.
Sarah. You know that summer home you've always dreamed of building here?
Yeah. What about it?
Well, I've been thinking. If we juggle some things in the portfolio, I think we could make that happen a little sooner than we thought.
Oh, wow. That would be great. Hon, what do you think?
Sweet.
When you work with a Morgan Stanley financial advisor, you get someone unusually devoted to your dreams, one client at a time.
It's allergy season, Mole. Time to choose an allergy medicine.
Pick one of those. You could be suffering again in 6 hours.
Oh no, Allegra 180!
It lasts 4 times longer.
Why would I even consider those others?
One dose of most OTC allergy medicines may not last as long as you want, but just one Allegra 180 lasts up to 4 times longer than one dose of most OTC allergy medicines.
Long-lasting Allegra is still working.
For people 12 and over, side effects are low and may include headache, cold, or backache.
Allegra works around the clock.
Long-lasting Allegra. The relief goes on.
CBS Tomorrow. The only way to get into Miami's hottest pool party is to crash it.
And there was a flash. You mean explosion? No. Everything went green.
And one CSI's past
Walk away, John.
will reappear.
I don't want it to be over.
And you better remember what I do for a living.
A new CSI Miami tomorrow. A look back.
We're on the upside of the hurricane.
At 50 years of broadcasting, Dan Rather, a reporter, remembers.
Imagine if the entertainment industry created a video game in which you could decapitate police officers, kill them with a sniper rifle, massacre them with a chainsaw, and set them on fire. Think anyone would buy such a violent game? They would, and they have. The game, Grand Theft Auto, has sold more than 35 million copies, with worldwide sales approaching $2 billion. 2 weeks ago, a multi-million-dollar lawsuit was filed in Alabama against the makers and marketers of Grand Theft Auto, claiming that months of playing the game led a teenager to go on a rampage and kill 3 men, 2 of them police officers. Can a video game train someone to kill? Grand Theft Auto is a world governed by the laws of depravity.
Sorry, but I need this.
See a car you like? Steal it. Someone you don't like? Stomp her. A cop in your way? Blow him away. There are police at every turn and endless opportunities to take them down. It is 360 degrees of murder and mayhem. Slickly produced, technologically brilliant, and exceedingly violent. And now it's at the center of a civil lawsuit involving the murders of 3 men in the small town of Fayette, Alabama. They were gunned down by 18-year-old Devin Moore, who had played Grand Theft Auto day and night for months. Attorney Jack Thompson, a longtime crusader against video game violence, is bringing the suit. Are you saying that Devin Moore shot 3 people in the head because of a video game?
What we're saying is that Devin Moore was, in effect, trained to do what he did. He was given a murder simulator. He bought it as a minor. He played it hundreds of hours, which is primarily a cop-killing game. It's our theory, which we think we can prove to a jury in Alabama, that but for the video game training, he would not have done what he did.
Moore's victims were Ace Mueller, a 911 dispatcher, James Crump, a police officer, and Arnold Strickland, another officer who was on patrol in the early morning hours of June 7, 2003, when he brought in Devin Moore on suspicion of stealing a car. Moore had no criminal history and was cooperative as Strickland booked him inside the Fayette police station. Then suddenly, inexplicably, Moore snapped. This is where it happened. According to Devin Moore's own statement, he lunged at Officer Arnold Strickland, grabbing his .40 caliber Glock automatic, and shot Strickland twice, once in the head. Officer James Crump heard the shots and came running. Moore met him about here in the hallway and fired 3 shots into Crump. One of those shots was in the head. He kept walking down the hallway towards the door of the emergency dispatcher. Once here, he turned and fired 5 shots into Ace Mueller. Again, one of those shots was in the head. Along the way, Moore had grabbed a set of car keys. He went out the door to the parking lot, jumped into a police cruiser, and took off. It all took less than a minute, and 3 men were dead.
The video game industry gave him a cranial menu that popped up in the blink of an eye in that police station, and that menu offered him the split-second decision to kill the officers, shoot them in the head, flee in a police car, just as the game itself trained him to do.
After his capture, Devin Moore is reported to have told police, quote, "Life is like a video game. Everybody's got to die sometime." Moore is awaiting trial in criminal court. A suit filed by the families of 2 of his victims claims that Moore acted out a scenario found in Grand Theft Auto. You, the player, are a street thug trying to take over the city. In one scenario, you can enter a police precinct, steal a uniform, free a convict from jail, escape by shooting police, and flee in a squad car.
I've now got the entire police force after me. You have to eliminate all resistance.
Nicholas Hamner, a law student at the University of Alabama, demonstrated Grand Theft Auto for us. Like millions of gamers, the overwhelming majority, he says he plays it simply for fun. So you've already shot about 8 cops inside before you got out the door?
Looked about like that.
And now you're stealing a police car?
David Walsh, a child psychologist who's co-authored a study connecting violent video games to physical aggression, says the link can be explained in part by pioneering brain research recently done at the National Institutes of Health, which shows that the teenage brain is not fully developed. Does repeated exposure to violent video games have more of an impact on a teenager than it does on an adult?
It does, and that's largely because the teenage brain is different from the adult brain. The impulse control center of the brain, the part of the brain that enables us to think ahead, consider consequences, manage urges. That's the part of the brain right behind our forehead called the prefrontal cortex that's under construction during the teenage years. In fact, the wiring of that is not completed until the early 20s.
Walsh says this diminished impulse control becomes heightened in a person who has additional risk factors for criminal behavior. Devin Moore had a profoundly troubled upbringing, bouncing back and forth between a broken home and a handful of foster families.
And so when a young man with a developing brain, already angry, spends hours and hours and hours rehearsing violent acts, and then he's put in a situation of emotional stress, there's a likelihood that he will literally go to that familiar pattern that's been wired repeatedly, perhaps thousands and thousands of times.
But look, Dr. Walsh, you've got probably millions of kids out there playing violent games like Grand Theft Auto and other violent games who never hurt a fly.
Right.
So what does that do to your theory?
Yeah. Well, not every kid that plays a violent video game is going to turn to violence, and that's because they don't have all of those other risk factors going on. It's a combination of risk factors which come together in a tragic outcome.
Arnold Strickland had been a police officer for 25 years when he was murdered. His brother Steve, a Methodist minister, wants the video game industry to pay. Do you hold the people who created and marketed this video game, do you hold them responsible for your brother's death?
To one degree, yes, I do. Why does it have to come to a point to where somebody's life has to be taken before they realize that these games have repercussions to them? Why does it have to be to where my brother's not here anymore?
Still painful for you?
Very much so. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about it.
Strickland, along with the parents of dispatcher Ace Mueller, is suing Devin Moore as well as Walmart and GameStop, which sold Moore 2 versions of Grand Theft Auto. Both companies sent us letters insisting they bear no responsibility for Moore's actions and that the game is played by millions of law-abiding citizens. Take-Two Interactive, the creator of Grand Theft Auto, and Sony, which makes the device that runs the game, are also being sued. Both declined to talk to us on camera. Instead, we were referred to Doug Lowenstein, who represents the video game industry. Lowenstein is not named in the lawsuit and says he can't comment on it directly. I would imagine you wouldn't feel comfortable trying to defend a game like Grand Theft Auto.
Well, you know, it's not my job to defend individual titles. My job is to defend the right of people in this industry to create the products that they want to create. That's free expression.
A police officer we spoke to said our job is dangerous enough as it is without having our kids growing up playing those games and having the preconceived notions of let's kill an officer. It's almost like putting a target on us. Can you see his point?
Look, I have great respect for the law enforcement officers of this country, and I'm not going to, they put themselves on the front lines. I don't think video games inspire people to commit crimes. If people have a criminal mind, it's not because they're getting their ideas from the video games. There's something much more deeply wrong with the individual, and it's not the game that's the problem.
You know, I think a lot of people watching this are going to have a problem with the idea that Grand Theft Auto, the video game, somehow caused Devin Moore to actually pull the trigger, because that would seem to remove the concept of personal responsibility in this act. And at the end of the day, if indeed he did kill 3 men, wasn't that his decision? And shouldn't he suffer the consequences?
There's plenty of blame to go around. Fact is, we think Devin Moore is responsible for what he did. But we think that the adults who created these games and in effect programmed Devin Moore and assisted him to kill are responsible, at least civilly.
Thompson says video game companies had reason to foresee that some of their products would trigger violence, and bolsters his case with claims that the murders in Fayette were not the first thought to be inspired by Grand Theft Auto. In Oakland, California, detectives said the game provoked a street gang accused of robbing and killing 6 people.
They would play the game during the day and live out a lot of that game at night with their different types of street robberies.
In Newport, Tennessee, 2 teenagers told police the game was an influence when they shot at passing cars with a .22 caliber rifle, killing 1 person. But to date, not a single court case has acknowledged a link between virtual violence and the real thing. Paul Smith is a First Amendment lawyer who has represented video game companies.
What you have in almost every generation is a new medium that comes along and is subject of an almost hysterical attack. If you went back to the 1950s, it's hard to believe now, but comic books were blamed for juvenile delinquency. And I think what you really have here is very much the same phenomenon playing itself out again with the new medium.
Why do you think the courts have ruled against these kinds of lawsuits?
If you start saying that we're going to sue people because one individual out there read their book or played their game and decided to become a criminal, there is no stopping point. It's a huge new swath of censorship that will be imposed on the media.
Despite its violence, or because of it, the fact is that millions of people like playing Grand Theft Auto. Steve Strickland can't understand why.
The question I have to ask the manufacturers of them is, why do you make games that target people that are to protect us? Police officers, people that we look up to, people that I respect with high admiration. Why do you want to market a game that gives people the thoughts, even the thoughts of thinking it's okay to shoot police officers? Why do you want to do that?
Both Walmart and GameStop, where Devin Moore purchased Grand Theft Auto, say they voluntarily card teenagers in an effort to keep violent games from underage kids. But several states are considering laws that would ban the sale of violent games to those under 17.
"60 Minutes." We're always on CBSNews.com. Sponsored in part by Lamisil Tablets. Ask your doctor if Lamisil tablets are right for you.
Hello, Chicago. Anyone there? Can you hear us?
How do we do this?
With this.
But that's a phone.
It's a phone, it's the web, it's a video conference. Ed, stop hitting the TV.
Konnichiwa.
Productivity, powered by Cisco.
Hey, Angie, you going to the post office? Hey, Ted, you going to the post office?
Do I know you?
Anyone go to the post office? Jeff. Ronnie? Connie. Isn't anyone going to the post office?
Hey, Chuck.
Can't go to the post office? Go to USPS.com.
From buying stamps to shipping packages, almost anything you do at the post office, you can do at USPS.com. It's how the U.S. Postal Service is working for you.
Hey, Steve! Lunch?
I'm here with Ty Murray, who's trying Quiznos Steakhouse beef dip sub. How is it, Ty?
This thing's tasty, Bob.
I see you're dipping it in the pan-roasted au jus, too.
Yep.
What do you say you, give me a little nibble there, Ty, huh? Just a taste of roux?
You know you're not big enough, little man.
You are so cold, cowboy.
Get our Steakhouse Beef Dip Sub. It's loaded with tender roast beef and toasted to perfection for just $2.99 every day.
Just $2.99 every day.
Quiznos. Toasty.
Make more of your money work for you. Consider a fund targeted to your retirement year. For more information and to open a no-fee Roth IRA, call 1-800-FIDELITY. Smart move.
60 Minutes continues in a moment. Now this from CBS News.
This week, inside the mind of a murderer, Scott Peterson's half-sister offers chilling insight into her brother.
And the latest Survivor cast-off on The Early Show.
For over 40 years, he was there.
Crusades against segregation in South Vietnam. The hurricane. Baghdad right now.
A reporter's notebook this week on the CBS Evening News.
Who will be eliminated?
Come on, run.
Find out on the new Amazing Race, CBS Tuesday.
Children all suffered freak accidents.
Melinda was impaled instantly.
A 15-foot fence went through her. In the next Montel, they'll tell how they survived.
I was beating on the bottom of the car trying to get it to stop.
Ashley was hit, then dragged under a car. Alana, lost in the desert, was nearly baked alive. Sarah's arm was ripped off by farm equipment. Not only did she survive...
Show him, Sarah.
Young survivors of freak accidents on the next Montel.
Monday at 4 on KRCG.
Hollywood's new breakups. Next Entertainment Tonight. Charlie and Denise.